Partnership with the Maine Department of Labor. Sponsored by Bath Iron Works, Hospitality Maine, AGC Maine, Maine Construction Academy, and Hannaford.
All right, thanks for joining us for this digital conversation here in our digital studio at WGME ahead of our town hall on Maine's labor crisis, something that has been highly talked about over the past couple of years in the state. And I'm very happy to be joined by Kelly Flagg. She's the executive director of the Associated General Contractors here in Maine, of America, and the Maine chapter here. And Kelly, just give me a little background on yourself and a little bit about AGC.
Yeah, so I joined AGC Maine this past July. And since coming on board here, we've been heavily focused on helping our member organizations build their companies, build their workforce. And, when I sit and have a conversation with a new member or an existing member, I would say that the thing above and beyond everything else that I hear is the number one issue facing our industry, it's workforce. It's where do we find the people to do the work?
And we see so many projects happening across the state. I mean, from building new developments and apartments to, I know there's so much road construction that we see. I mean, that's going to start coming up in the next few months. How has it been since the pandemic, really, trying to find people to enter this workforce?
Yeah, it's a different market right now. And like you said, I will just qualify, our members do all different types of commercial construction, from your highway construction to vertical building construction. So building your hospitals, your apartment buildings, lots of the new development that's happening. And we also do energy construction, right? So renewable energy construction and industrial construction. And so the construction industry has stayed strong through the pandemic. However, the workforce has been changing. And, I think we've had a lot of conversations across the board about people leaving the workforce during the pandemic, maybe deciding that it's time to spend more time with family or time for retirement. Construction workforce has been aging. We've known this for a long time. I mean, we've been probably having these conversations for at least 10 years, that the bulk of our construction workforce was in the second half of their career. And I think the pandemic really just created extra pressure on an already existing challenge that we knew was coming.
It really exacerbated a problem. I mean, in so many facets of our lives, and workforce is such a huge part of that, because we can't function without, people to have these jobs. So you mentioned people retiring, leaving the workforce, aging out of it. How do we find new people? Are we looking for younger generations of Mainers to join this workforce?
Yeah, I mean, that's one area. I think we have to leave no stone unturned. When we talk about the construction workforce, I think, yes, we absolutely need to look to youth. And I will say, I'm not anti-college education. So I want to qualify this statement by saying that I believe that's the right path for a lot of people. But we also have an entire generation who was encouraged to take that pathway. And we really have missed bringing that generation into construction and the opportunity for construction. So one of the real strong messages that I'm seeing really a lot of collaboration on now is that you don't necessarily have to get a 4-year education after high school. So sharing that message at the junior high level, at the high school level, that construction careers are good paying, viable career options for someone who maybe doesn't want to be at a computer or at a desk. I know that's something I identified really early on. I have a lot of professional skills, but I never wanted to sit in a cubicle. And I knew that from very early on in my career. And I think there needs to be a change of our messaging around construction, right? I look at it like, you could drive through the state of Maine 10, 15 years into your career and say, I built that, I built that, I built that. This is an important part of our state and an important part of our state's future.
And you mentioned, kind of expanding the messaging there. I feel like, and I think we've done a few stories already, that a lot more women are getting into the
Mhm.
construction and into the trades as well, which is going to be a huge opening, I feel like, for the industry, that you're able to tap a whole new group of people that otherwise before were not maybe as interested.
Yeah, I think when we look at the next generation of construction workforce, it includes all different populations, right? Eliminating, and I don't know that anyone ever purposefully eliminated women from the construction industry, right? But we know that we were underrepresented. I think a shift in our thinking again, in that the right person for the job is the right person for the job, regardless of their gender, regardless of who they are or where they come from. And I think that expands even beyond women in construction to looking at when we look at the populations of where are we going to find the next people, it's youth, it's returning veterans, right, who have transferable skills that make sense in construction. It's women, it's non-traditional populations, maybe new Mainers, right? So again, where is the population growing, and where can we find people that may be interested in really learning these hands-on skills?
And are some of those people out of state? Are we trying to recruit people from other New England states or even across the country? I know that's been something that the governor talked about during her State of the State.
Yeah,
A lot of
yeah.
people are coming here because we have opportunities.
We do have opportunities. I think there is some opportunity for that, but I also think even before we look at where do we find folks from outside of Maine, and we have initiatives for that, right? We have great organizations that are doing that work, that are encouraging people to come here for the lifestyle, that are encouraging people to come, live and work in Maine. Um, I look at the people who are already here, right? When AGC looks at the workforce situation, there's two different things I have to consider. There's how do we solve today's immediate need? When I have member companies saying we would take more work if we had more people to do it, right? We could do more if we had the people. So we know that the industry is constricted in the immediate short term. So the time it takes to recruit somebody to decide they want to move to Maine and work here it's a little bit of a longer process versus, can I go and create a partnership with youth programs who have individuals who are between 18 and 25 years old, who are ready to go to work, who within a 4, 5, 6 week period of time could be job site ready, right? There's a short-term immediate need. And then there's our sort of what's our long-term strategy for maintaining and building the workforce. And I think both of those pieces are really important.
And you talk about starting early on, so people who may not have thought this as being, their career path, if you will, but you're offering incentives to get them in there, get their foot in the door early on, and learn as they go. That hands-on training.
Yeah.
So, I mean, my dad is an electrician by trade. So I knew early on that it was something I didn't end up going into, but he wanted to at least put me on that path to try it out if I wanted to. And I worked with him on job sites for quite a bit. But can you talk about the importance of that,
Oh,
apprenticing, shadowing
absolutely.
these people? Because
Yeah.
you get paid early on, which a lot of people don't, I guess, realize.
So this is a great time for me to share. We're doing a pilot program this year and hopefully ongoing, but where we're going to offer a summer program. We're offering it in 7 locations across the state of Maine, where students immediately following graduation and/or students who have graduated during the pandemic. I think there's a little bit of a lost group of people there who weren't quite sure what their next step was. But students who are graduating or who have recently graduated and not moved on to a solid career pathway can participate in our 6-week construction immersion program. We're running that through a part of AGC called the Maine Construction Academy. Those students are going to get hands-on opportunities. So they're going to leave that program with everything they need to go onto a job site. And what I mean by that is they're going to get their OSHA training. They're going to get first aid, CPR. They're going to learn basic hand tools, basic power tools. They're going to have a couple of, the base certifications they need to go to work.
Yeah.
The remainder of that program, we have created this really unique opportunity for our member companies, right? They're recruiting, they're hiring, they need workers to come in and talk to those students. So the students get exposed to who are the people I might work for? What does their work look like? And then they get a hands-on opportunity to try something that's representative of what that work in the field would be. By the end of that 6 weeks, those students are going to be exposed to anywhere from 10 to 13 different employers. They're going to have a hiring event. And the goal is for those students to go immediately into an apprenticeship program with one of those member companies. So what apprenticeship does is it matches education with work, on the job work experience. So they're getting paid and they're learning. So there's still an educational component, but it's not the traditional college pathway.
Absolutely. And that opens up a lot more doors, because I mean, that just gives you a direct pathway into the industry. The
Well, not all youth can afford to go from school to a 4-year education without having some sort of full-time work. And so what this does is it matches a full-time work experience with education in a manageable way. And that helps us combat those students or those individuals who might have barriers to entering the workforce and or taking on a position like this.
And the whole point of this workforce shortage that we're seeing in the state is breaking down those barriers, right? To be able to open up more opportunities.
Yes. And we're working with other local organizations to support additional barriers too. So if we have students, and I say students, but it doesn't, I mean, they're going to be graduating students, whether they're students, whether they are individuals in early recovery, whether they're recently coming out of an incarceration situation. We're partnering with local organizations to provide the necessary support services too, so that people have everything they need to be successful when they go to work. And that might be transportation, it might be childcare, it might be medical care, whatever that looks like. One of the things AGC has been really involved in is bringing together the right organizations to support each individual so that when they show up on the job site, they've gotten all of the support they need to be successful in that endeavor.
The pilot program, can you give us some details on when that might start and where the schools are located across the state?
Yeah, so we're actually accepting applications for those programs right now. The first one will be starting at the end of May, but the Gorham Westbrook is one of our locations, Bath, Brewer, Somerset. That one's going to be hosted by KVCC in conjunction with the Somerset Career and Technical Education Program. Sanford, and I'm probably missing one, but they're spread out across the state. So not just Southern Maine. And if anyone is interested in learning more about that, if there's an individual who is interested and or a parent who has a student who might be interested, they're more than welcome to reach out to myself or Thomas Sutherland, who's our director of that program, and we can connect them with that application process. Really, really unique program where the individuals participating are going to get, there is a stipend for the program, so they'll get paid during the duration of the program. And then we also will provide them with all of the things they need to be work ready, including hard hat, reflective vest, steel toe boots, a basic toolkit. So they're going to leave with everything they need to go to work.
And that's sometimes a barrier for people too, the cost of a lot of these things.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the package, we did some real quick math, but the student package for the Maine Construction Academy, it's $500 to $700 value. That can be a significant barrier to someone participating in a program and or going to work. A lot of our member companies will provide some of this stuff for them as well. But again, we wanted to knock down every possible barrier that we could. How do we make this work? How do we get people what they need? And again, if someone's going to participate in one of these programs and perhaps they don't have a car, perhaps they don't have a way to get transportation, we have the ability to support them in transportation to and from the program as well.
For those just joining us, I have Kelly Flagg here from the Associated General Contractors of Maine, the executive director here. And Kelly, the thing I want to kind of leave people with here is that you're optimistic. We have a labor crisis in the state, but there's a lot of smart minds out there that are working to solve it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think individual pockets of people doing the work, right? Our member companies are actively recruiting every single day. How can we bring them into a system where we can engage them with the schools? Because the schools are doing their work. The career and technical centers are doing their work. The community colleges are doing their work. The support agencies are doing their work. And we've really tried to be the hub that brings all of these thinkers together, right? And says, how do we work together to create the best possible outcome for the highest number of people? And how do we really continue to build the future of Maine, really, is what we're talking about. I mean, yes, we're talking about roads and bridges and buildings, but we're talking about the economic viability of our state, really.
Absolutely. I mean, it's important for our state's relevance and survival into the future to have a robust workforce. Kelly, thanks for joining us here. This is obviously a topic that we're going to continue to follow. We're excited to see the progress with the pilot program. And all of this will be discussed tonight at 7 during our town hall on CBS 13 News at 7. So we're going to have a large panel discussion here, and we'll have some of our conversation here with Kelly as part of that as well. But Kelly, I want to really thank you so much for joining us, this important conversation, getting this information out there to Mainers.
Thank you for watching this interactive broadcast, Maine's Labor Crisis, presented in partnership with the Maine Department of Labor, sponsored by Bath Iron Works, Hospitality Maine, AGC Maine, Maine Construction Academy, and Hannaford. Make sure to stay connected with CBS 13 and Fox 23, on air, online, and through these social channels.